Traditionally, Disney and Pixar have both been synonymous with event family entertainment, as audiences would flock to anything with the Pixar brand on it. Elio, however, clearly demonstrates that this is no longer the case, meaning Disney's woke rebranding is now complete. Let's see how with great fucking around comes great finding out in this postmortem. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Disney and Pixar's Elio opened to little more than 20 million at the domestic box office, coming in at third place, behind last week's holdover How to Train Your Dragon and the R-rated horror 28 years later. For a Pixar movie, which came in at a cost of 150 million that Disney will admit to, that is not just embarrassing, it is a mortifying disaster. Because in the larger scheme of things, it means that no one saw their movie. Most audiences, especially the ones that traditionally would see Pixar movies in the past, rejected it unseen. And I don't think that was because summer is here and everyone else that used to make up the Pixar audience traveled to Disneyland for their vacation. So let's see what happened here. But before we do, and on the note of vacation, traveling is something I do a fair bit of myself actually, and when I do, I use Surfshark VPN to protect my data and to secure constant access, no matter my physical location. With Surfshark, I can relax knowing that my IP address, exact location, download history and other data have all been masked, while their clean web feature blocks trackers, malware and phishing attempts, enabling safe surfing, especially since Surfshark themselves don't track or store what I do online. Unlike some other popular VPN providers, Surfshark has no activity log. Surfshark not only allows access to regionally blocked websites, it also gives some great advantages when it comes to streaming. For instance, you can access 15 different Netflix libraries, all with a different selection of movies and TV series, simply by changing your virtual location. And there are many to choose from, as Surfshark has over 3,200 servers in more than 100 countries around the world. So, if me or my kids wants to see the latest local hit movie while traveling, Surfshark has our backs. And since they sponsor this channel, we naturally have a deal for you. If you use our link surfshark.com/midnight or use our code MIDNIGHT at checkout, you'll get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN for free. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out at surfshark.com/midnight. With that, let's get into the latest Disney fail and how Hollywood is going to explain this. As we have seen with previous movies and franchises that according to Hollywood logic should not fail, but still do, we on the outside can say exactly what went wrong. Indeed, we have a whole playlist of postmortems to check out after you're done with this one. Yet the Hollywood trades, the industry pravdas that lets everyone know what are acceptable opinions to hold at any given time, are sometimes left with what we in my neck of the woods call a förklaringsproblem. That is, how do you explain what went wrong when honestly doing so would expose your own culpability in it? So, let's begin with how the industry itself is trying to explain what went wrong, without pointing it out too clearly. In their own internal industry postmortem, Deadline Hollywood writes, "We can't deny that Disney and Pixar's Elio, at an industry estimated 20 million plus, is the lowest opening for a Pixar movie, lower than the first Pixar feature, 1995's Toy Story at 29.1 million. And that's also in 1995 dollars, and also lower than 2023's Elemental at 29.6 million, which also wasn't impressive. That, my friends, is what we call brand contraction. Deadline Hollywood is stunned by this poor box office showing though, for as they point out, this comes despite excellent audience exits with an A overall cinema score and A+ for the under 25 bunch. That's Hollywood speak for that there's nothing wrong with the movie itself, as those who saw it report liking it. That of course is a report in need of some major modification. You know that, I know that, but Hollywood can't read qualitative data, only quantitative. So let's grant the quantitative data, which says that audiences did like the movie, and for the purposes of this discussion, treat that as a given, because Hollywood does. That in turn then implies that we are either dealing with a marketing problem, which is bad but fixable next time out, or a branding problem, which is a far more nefarious thing. This is something Deadline Hollywood really should have addressed, but they didn't. Instead, they jumped straight on towards making excuses. Their write-up continues. True, the new paradigm of success for a Disney animated property lies in its endgame viewership on Disney+. This right here is Deadline Hollywood carrying water for Disney, because the reality is that everything on Disney Plus is just one little speck of the overall content offering. And if that content offering isn't keeping subscription numbers above break-even levels and constantly growing from there, then all that Disney Plus viewership means is that the movie won't be earning money by way of being sold to actually successful streamers like Netflix, who would have paid real money for it, which is something Elio will never earn while being locked up on Disney Plus. Deadline Hollywood won't point that out though, but they will admit that with an opening like this, even if there was money to be had from Disney Plus, this movie won't be getting any. Because if you don't create a big enough boom at the start, how do you expect word of mouth to downstream? While we know Pixar can make an emotional movie, evident in the exits here, something is holding audiences back from running to theaters, so evident in the marketing. A boy with a patch and goofy aliens just isn't cutting it. Having established that, as if it were a self-evident fact, Deadline Hollywood then proceeds to tacitly criticize the concept of the movie, saying, Elio isn't a bad movie, but the conceit of a boy obsessed with space and then meeting a bunch of slobbering aliens isn't spinning turnstiles. Well, in its current form, it evidently isn't, but I submit it could have been, if John Lasseter had been in charge of it. John Lasseter, of course, was to Pixar what Walt was to Disney, what Bill Finger was to Batman, and what Lou Scheimer was to He-Man. That is, the creative genius that was able to create and/or breathe the spark of life into projects that otherwise would have gone nowhere. All the criticisms Deadline has towards Elio could in principle have been leveled at all other Pixar projects as well, especially the successful ones. But no one is doing that because they worked, and the main reason they worked is the creative input of John Lasseter. He was the man with the Midas touch at Pixar, and it was him that saved Disney Animation after Iger had him run that as well, making Disney Animation virtually indistinguishable from Pixar in the process, but that is neither here nor there. Point is, he was the proverbial golden goose where animation within the House of Mouse was concerned. So of course they killed that golden goose, which was a shame because he actually was for Pixar and Disney Animation what Kevin Feige is hyped up to be for Marvel. As we learned from Film Threat and their excellent coverage from behind the scenes of Disney Animation, for all his other virtues, Lasseter liked to drink, and he was fond of giving hugs, which young millennial female animators did not appreciate. And what they appreciated even less was that rather than instantly validating every single one of their shitty ideas, he would instead criticize those ideas and tear them apart, and try to teach the younglings behind them how to rebuild them into something even better. But someone perpetually triggered isn't interested in growth or improvement. They want to be validated as the little Miss Perfects they fancy themselves to be right off the bat. And so, come Me Too, John Lasseter was removed in what from the outside looks like a politically motivated hit job. But if his younger and more diverse replacements thought that they could work magic the way that he could, or even improve on what he did, Disney shareholders learned soon enough that they could not, and Elio is just the latest in a long line of such lessons. John Lasseter might not have come up with the concept for Elio, but if he had been there, he could have turned it into something that worked even better, rendering Deadline's criticism of the concept moot. Alas, Lasseter wasn't there, and his absence indirectly ties to the real problem, which the advanced buzz about the movie also alluded to. To document the pre-release buzz, Deadline refers to the findings of a Parrot Analytics-style social media tracking agency, writing adds relish. Negative-leaning convo on Elio is bearing the weight of past disappointments from Disney and Pixar. Let's read that sentence one more time, because this is actually an important finding. Negative-leaning convo on Elio is bearing the weight of past disappointments from Disney and Pixar. More than any other reason they list, this one is significant. And that, of course, is why Deadline Hollywood will breeze right through that sentence without developing it any further. I will, of course, do so presently, but before I do, let's take a look at what Deadline Hollywood would rather their readers focus on as the reasons why Elio failed. Desperately looking for more acceptable reasons why Elio might have failed, Deadline pointed out, there are those who are cautious given the film's delayed release by almost a year. Editor's note, Elio's original release date was March 1st of 2024, given how the movie was supposed to debut last summer. Good thing they had that editor's note in there, because apart from the select few who really pay attention to stuff like this delay was not on the radar of a lot of people, so I question how much of an impact that may have had. Jumping forward a tiny bit, Deadline also wants you to focus on the title, writing. Also not doing any favors here is the title, Elio. Is Elio the cousin of Pixar's Luca, who was jettisoned to Disney Plus during the lockdowns? Yes, one is set in Italy and the other in space, but the titles are too similarly sounding. One-word titles of people's names are quite the risk. Worked out for Wall-E though, which was also in space, so that is reaching. I submit that if audiences still believed in the Disney and Pixar brands, they would have flocked to the latest Pixar movie, even if it was called Elio. But that's the issue here, and this goes back to the point that Deadline Hollywood were so quick to breeze past. Negative-leaning convo on Elio is bearing the weight of past disappointments from Disney and Pixar. That would be all those disappointments that came in the aftermath of the firing of John Lasseter, and him being replaced by younger, woker, and a more diverse breed of creatives. Or rather, activists who fancy themselves creatives, who gave us such hits as Lightyear, Wish, and lest we forget, Strange World, a movie so inclusive that even the dog was disabled. Proving this point, Deadline even highlight some comments about Elio from the tracking agency, which include, looks like a fun movie, but Pixar's quality really seems to be diminishing, and Pixar is dead. This looks absolutely atrocious. All these new ones look the same. And damn, why did they announce this like a couple of months ago, only to release it like around a year later? 2 out of 3 comments there reflected a loss of faith in the Disney and Pixar brands. That's the problem here. Everything else is secondary to that. And that problem is a big one, and one not easily fixed. The title, changing release dates, animation style, concept, none of that would have mattered if audiences had still believed in Disney and Pixar. Movies like Ratatouille weren't hits because of the title or concept, but because audiences believed in the Pixar brand and knew they were in for a good time before ever venturing into the cinema. But that was then, back when John Lasseter was in charge. Now, after both Disney and Pixar's woke post-Lasseter output these last few years, and again, Pixar and Disney animation are often confused for each other, making matters worse, because it means that audiences generally know they're in for a lecture and a snooze fest from both. As we've pointed out in so many other postmortems, the real problem is several years' worth of diversity drive, which has infected every facet of the company, and that Pixar and Disney animation that begun with the ousting of John Lasseter. And contrary to what the DEI ideology prescribed, the woke content replacing his has directly led to contraction across the board. That's what happens when talented storytellers and animators are replaced with ideologues. And then on top of that, there is the streaming factor, compounding the damage. Audiences have been trained to sit movies out unless it's something really special, because the more people sit any movie out, the faster it will be on streaming. And this is especially true in the case of Disney and its subsidiaries like Pixar. Everyone now knows you'll be able to see it on Disney Plus for free before long anyway, and the worse it bombs, the faster you'll be getting it for free, so nice training there, Disney. Add all of that together, and what you get is Elio flopping based on perception alone, not the movie itself. While many of those who did see it enjoyed it, many more sat it out, because they no longer believe in the Disney and Pixar brands. And on top of that, some audiences that otherwise might have gone sat it out because they've been trained to see such things for free on Disney+. Last year's Inside Out 2, a sequel to a Lasseter-era movie I might add, was a fluke, just like Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine. With Elio, Disney and Pixar are back to the disappointing new box office norm. Alas, there's nothing inherently wrong about the story about a kid who loves space. Kids do love space and dinosaurs, so if anything, that's a solid start. Provided you add a touch of faith in the brand producing it. But of course, if that brand, rather than quality, becomes known for the imperative,
"Put a chick in it, make her gay!"
then all bets are off. That may even dampen the love for dinosaurs, so Universal and ScarJo better watch out this summer as well. And we will keep you up to date on that and everything else right here on Midnight's Edge. To make sure you don't miss out, please like this video, hit subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure to indicate you want notifications on all videos, and that you have approved receiving notifications on your device of choice. With that, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, and before you go, remember to protect your online privacy, so use our link surfshark.com/midnight or use code MIDNIGHT at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN for free.